Hi, I'm Luke Haliburton, and I'm here to present our paper, Charting the Path, Requirements and Constraints for Technology-Supported Walking Meetings. This paper was done together with Paweł Woźniak, Albrecht Schmidt, and Jasmin Niess. Our motivation for this project came from the fact that knowledge workers and people who work in offices spend up to 71% of the workday sitting on average. Most ideas to increase exercise or get moving more at work actually involve interrupting work, so taking more breaks and reducing productivity. So we actually wanted to look at walking meetings because they can integrate physical activity into the workday. Now, staying in place, not moving, is risky. It can actually have negative consequences for your health. From heart disease, cancer, diabetes, all-cause mortality, all of these things increase when we have lower movement in our day. Walking in particular is an easy way of moving that people do on an everyday basis, and it increases our heart capacity, blood pressure, stress, anxiety, mood, and even our creativity. All of these things go up when we walk during the day. So with all the potential benefits of walking and the fact that walking meetings can be incorporated right into the workday, why aren't walking meetings more common? This is one of the questions that we wanted to answer with our study. We also wanted to answer, how can we support walking meetings with technology? To answer these questions, we conducted a multi-method study, which you can see the outline of here, starting with an initial questionnaire, followed by expert interviews, then the creation of design fictions, and then follow-up questionnaires and interviews on those design fictions, all of which comes together to make a requirement space. So we're going to step through this method and talk about the results that we found. So to start with, we had an initial online questionnaire with 91 participants, and we asked people about their habits and other insights on both stationary and walking meetings so that we could see what habits people had and which ones could transfer across to walking meetings. In particular, we asked why people do walking meetings or why would they do walking meetings if they don't already practice them. So you can see here in the graph that we split up the respondents based on whether or not they were already experienced with walking meetings. And you can see some obvious results such as fresh air and physical activity being motivators for doing walking meetings. But people who are experienced with walking meetings were also more likely to mention things like better conversation flow as motivators for why they do walking meetings. We also asked why people don't do walking meetings or would not do them. And you can see that difficulty taking notes is actually the most common reason that people don't do walking meetings, but this was clearly a bigger problem for people who are not experienced than those who are experienced. So this discrepancy, first off, it's a problem that we can solve with technology. It's how we can enable people to take notes, but also this shows that perhaps once you've experienced walking meetings, this issue is not actually as big of a hurdle as once thought. We also asked people how they take notes in regular meetings, and by far, people preferred to use methods that involve their own notes, so methods that have some agency, as opposed to using protocols or meeting minutes. And this, to us, indicates that people want to have agency in their note taking. So just having automatic recordings is not necessarily enough. So after our initial online questionnaire, we then moved on to a round of expert interviews. We talked to 6 early adopters with in-depth interviews to ask about their experiences, their motivations for walking meetings, and limitations that they've encountered. The results from both the interviews and the initial online questionnaires were used to create design fictions. So we created 4 design fictions shown here in each quadrant of the CSCW space-time matrix. So this matrix has a time axis, which has same time and different time, and a space axis, which is same place or different place. And within each of these quadrants, we created a design fiction. So there was a scenario laid out and then a short narrative of characters taking part in either a walking meeting or a walking seminar. And the actions and technologies that were included in these design fictions came from the questionnaires and interviews that we conducted previously. So after creating the design fictions, we then conducted a second questionnaire with a wide range of users and also a follow-up interview with the original experts that we had talked to, those early adopters. So we collected qualitative results in both our initial questionnaire and interviews and the questionnaire and interviews based on design fictions. The initial one is shown here as study 1 and the design fictions is study 2. So we coded the results for that, the details of which are found in the paper, and we ended up finding all the themes in the middle. As you can see, there was information from both studies and also some that overlapped. And then finally, we created 4 themes: practical, environmental, social, and cognitive. And within these, in the paper, you can find there's a lot of different information of things that are important for designers of walking meetings within these categories. Beyond the themes and categories of information that we found on the previous slide, we also noticed 4 tensions that are going to be really important for technology designers moving forward. We'll talk about these each in turn. So starting with the nature tension, this is actually a tension that we found in our interviews and questionnaires between wanting technology support for things like sharing documents and taking notes and wanting to experience nature. People were actually primarily motivated to do walking meetings oftentimes as a reason to get out of their office and experience nature. And they wanted the support from technology, but didn't want that to take away from the nature experience. So this is going to be really important for people designing technologies in the future to make sure that they stay out of the way and don't interrupt the nature experience while still giving the support that the users want. So similarly, the conversation tension is between technology support again and an engaged conversation. In our interviews, especially with those early adopters, we found that they expect a high quality of in-depth conversation in their walking meetings, and they feared that technology support could get in the way of that. But at the same time, they still wanted that support so that they could expand the types of meetings that they have as walking meetings. So it's important for designers in the future to create technologies for walking meetings that move into the background and don't interrupt our conversations. So the third tension that we identified is once again dealing with technology support. And this is a privacy tension between technology support and security. So using technologies that record conversations is one way to have hands-free note-taking on the go, which is something that our users were really interested in. But this obviously has ethical and security issues, which are really crucial because recording everything that happens also means recording private parts of the conversation or people around you, since walking meetings often take place in public locations. So this is a super important aspect that designers need to consider when creating technologies to support walking meetings, particularly those technologies that record information. And the final tension, this is between planning and serendipity. So our participants, especially those who were experienced with walking meetings, really enjoyed being able to just go for a walk when they felt like it, or conduct a walking meeting if it happened to be nice out and not plan it in advance. But also people on the receiving end of that invitation oftentimes really didn't appreciate learning spontaneously that their meeting would become a walking meeting without time in advance to prepare. So this is obviously a tension because they are directly opposed to one another, but this is something where technology designers can absolutely step in. So you can have integrations into calendars that say when you are or are not available or willing to do walking meetings. And you can also have calendars that would suggest to do a walking meeting if the opportunity arises. So these 4 tensions are going to be particularly interesting for designers moving forward, that they must be considered because they'll be involved in basically any technology that is created to support walking meetings. And the balance of user needs on both sides needs to be met, and it probably needs to be different for different individuals. So as another aspect, accessibility is something that was mentioned a lot in our questionnaires and interviews. Accessibility has a lot of different aspects to do with walking meetings. First off, physical accessibility, of course, is a huge component. A lot of paths are simply not accessible due to steps or rough ground, especially through parks, which is where people often like to do walking meetings. There's also an issue with having access to a space to do walking meetings. So not every city has a safe and accessible place that you can conduct a walking meeting. And oftentimes this means taking a train or something outside of the city, which has as well a financial burden. Even the name walking meetings are actually not inclusive, specifically physically. So we have actually taken to calling them meetings in motion. We call them that in the paper, and we'll be continuing to call them that moving forward, and we encourage you to as well. So what are the main considerations and learnings that we can take away from this study? For one, we need to design technologies for walking meetings that embrace nature. This means accommodating weather, wandering, and unconstrained environments that we find outside. Second, by creating technology to support walking meetings, we may actually expand the types of meetings that people consider eligible for walking meetings by giving them support with notes and document sharings. Third, we need to make the technology move to the background so that it doesn't get in the way of both experiencing nature and also high quality of conversations that people expect for walking meetings. And finally, we need to build in accessibility from the get-go. It's often overlooked in walking meetings. And there's a lot of opportunities for technology designers to make this better. So thanks for watching this talk, and feel free to reach out to me, Luke Haliburton, at the email on the screen there if you have any questions. And also, of course, we encourage you to download the paper. There's a lot more details in there. Thanks.